Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to On Time Sports Talk. I am the Remix Casey Schedule, flying solo tonight, doing an exclusive podcast uh, on the Dallas Mavericks. That's the only subject we're going to cover tonight. You're going to start seeing this trend moving forward where I'm planning on putting out 2 podcasts a week on the Mavericks. And hopefully, long term, you understand there is a method to my madness. Still going to do the main show with my dad, the original Eddie schedule for sure. Uh, our last one was absolutely hilarious. So hopefully, y'all check that out, that video as well. But this is all about the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously, you can see the banner in my background. You know I'm a fan of them. I love the Mavericks. I got a tattoo on my left shoulder after the 2011 championship. But when I watch basketball, I don't watch it like a fan anymore. 15 years of coaching, I watch it from a coach's perspective, and it drives me nuts because I can't just enjoy the game. I'm always breaking down X's and O's and rights and wrongs and terrible footwork. And if you saw my rant on footwork in a video, you know, you know how I feel about that. But let's get to the series. Clippers, Mavericks, tied 2-2 at the moment. It's been a interesting up and down series for both teams, with the Clippers and the Kawhi situation, and the Dallas Mavericks with their we don't like afternoon Sunday games. We come out slow and then we fight back, and then we don't have enough to fight back, a la game one and then yesterday's game four, which don't get me wrong, yesterday's game was entertaining to watch if you're a Mavericks fan. You just can't dig yourself into that hole. And there's some things that I'm really curious about. And I'm going to start with Luka. Everything starts with Luka. I saw the report, as many have, that he's taking 12, almost 13 threes a game, and he's not efficient. I think he's shooting about a 27% clip right now. And when I watch it from a coach's perspective, I cringe. I cringe at a lot of 3 pointers taken in the NBA. Now they make them; they're professional players. It's the Steph Curry effect. Um, the shot making in the league is incredible at this point, but the shots a lot of times Luka takes from the perimeter, man, I'm just going to call a spade a spade. It's selfish. They're selfish shots. No one even touches the ball. The first possession of game one of the Clippers, it just launches it. No one touches the ball. And I just I don't understand the train of thought from one of the best players in the world, who is a basketball genius. He sees the game so well. I don't get sometimes the decision making that he makes. I don't think he's a naturally selfish player by any means, but at times he takes really bad shots. If you want to take that step back three after you've made a couple, or you've gotten to the line, or you've seen the ball go in the hoop a few times, I ain't going to argue with you. You're one of the best players in the world for sure. But there's times where he just comes out and he just lets it go. And I don't understand that particular train of thought. If you're a great player, and I know shooters are going to shoot, and I've always told my players that, if you're going to shoot, if you're a shooter, shoot yourself out of your slump. You're going to tell Luka to keep shooting the ball, but you want him to take good ones to get out of that slump. Shooting 27% from deep, you're being inefficient. And then you add his inefficiency from two at the moment. I think it's something around 38%. Man, you're killing us right now. Now he's playing better defense, and I think his health has something to do with it. I think that right knee is bothering him more than he's letting on. I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to diagnose. Just as a coach and a former player, I just it's what I see. Is he's gritting it out. He's fighting the good fight for his team, his organization, and the fan base. But I think there might be something more there than obviously they've publicized or put out there. And so let's move on to the game as a whole. Mavericks come out flat, end up getting down 31. They do end the first half strong. Uh, winning the second quarter 33-27 after being down 39-16. But getting in that type of hole, man, it's a deep one to dig out of. Obviously, 31 points would have tied the largest comeback in NBA playoff history, which I think the Clippers did against Golden State. And ultimately, when you're dealing with great players on the other side, yes, the Clippers let them back in the game. The Mavericks were in the lead at a small portion of the fourth quarter, and you kind of got to ask yourself, your Clippers, like, whoa, how did we let this happen? But ultimately, Mavericks fought back out of the hole, and it takes so much energy as a player, as a coach, as a staff, as a team to come back out of that hole. Now, the NBA game is crazy with the 3-point line and how it's used today. 15, 20, probably 20, 25 years ago. I'm not going to say 15 years anymore. If you were up 15, the game was damn near over. And kind of in that 90s, early 2000s era, you're up 15, you're solid. You got a dub on the horizon. Now we see leads just evaporate like that all the time. And it's kind of crazy. And not only did there were some bad shots by the Mavericks and Luka in particular, but Luka getting 2 early fouls. Those 2 early fouls, I try to tell folks all the time, is you can't get those early fouls. You're too valuable to your team for that, because in the fourth quarter you saw all the Clippers wanted to do was put Luka either in isolation with James Harden, or if he was guarding someone else, they would, set the screen and switch, because no one fights over screens anymore. Or, the Mavericks did a decent job of, they would shade Luka back and switch after a couple moments of Harden up there, isolation dribbling, after they came and double teamed and things of that nature. And so they were trying to counter what the Lakers are trying to do, but you end up just being a piece of Swiss cheese out there in the fourth quarter, because you put yourself in a bad foul situation, and you can't foul out of the game because you're too dang valuable to the team. And so you're just going to let them go. You turn into a matador and you're ole. And, he's going to the rim, and, we don't have a big man to stop him, which is another questionable decision that I don't understand. Jason Kidd making this decision is, how do you not put Daniel Gafford or Blake Lively back in the game in the fourth quarter? I understand what Maxey gives you in the switching situations, and maybe that's what you're worried about. But after the first one or two times that James Harden beats either Luka or PJ Washington off the dribble, and he just floats it up, how about you put a big guy in there to swat that crap in the fifth row? Like, seriously. It was 5 times in a row, just James Harden going by whoever's guarding him, and just a floater. He'll make 100 out of 100 of those, maybe 1,000 out of 1,000 with no resistance, which I have a problem with the Mavericks' defensive game plan in that situation as well with PJ Washington. PJ Washington, effort dude. I like him. He's got some grit to him. I really like him on this team. But he's not shading to the right side of the floor. You could tell him the game plan was to force James Harden to the right because he's so left-handed dominant. At the end of the day, he was giving him right. He gave him so much right. He was able to go back to his left for the floater, where the defender, PJ Washington, should be. Like, what are you doing? A dude who is so left-hand dominant, so good going back to his left, you gave him so much right, you gave him right and left. I don't I didn't understand the game plan from that aspect on how they decided to guard the ball with James Harden, not putting your big guys back in the game at some point in the fourth quarter. I understand giving a break. I understand giving Maxey, one of your guys, a chance. Maxey did hit a big three in that fourth quarter, and maybe you want that out there to stretch the floor and maybe hit a couple shots. But it's not like he's an offensive juggernaut. He is very solid defensively, but right then you needed a big guy in the game. And so I don't really get how they ended up not putting him back in the game. Uh, you really needed that size. You needed that size to take on the the penetration of James Harden. Uh, Now the other star for Dallas, Kyrie, obviously the entire team is a culprit of coming out flat. And maybe coming out flat is another coaching thing. Maybe it's Jason Kidd, or maybe I just saw this ESPN short about, guys in their naps. Maybe the Mavericks don't get their naps on early afternoon games. I don't know what the issue is, but these two afternoon games have been trash, absolute trash in the first half. They've been mirror images, game one and game four. And you have to figure that out either as a coaching staff or as the player. I put it more on the player than the coaching staff personally, just because the player knows themselves better than anyone else. You know what you need to do to adjust your routine to still make it your routine on game day. You've played enough of these games throughout the year that you can do that. You're professional, you can do that. But I do want to talk about Kyrie Irving. The shot making of Kyrie Irving, we all know his finishing ability. It's so beautiful to watch. His ability to finish around the rim with all kinds of different finishes. The big three he hit when Luka kicked it out to him on a catch and shoot there in the fourth quarter with about 3 or 4 minutes left when I think it was to tie the game. I mean, Kyrie, what a story Kyrie is. When he left Brooklyn and the Mavericks traded for him, everyone's like, it's not going to work. It's, he's a head case. He's this, he's that. Kyrie's been a model citizen since he got to Dallas. Kyrie has done nothing but perform, other than that last year he was injured, as well as Luke. They didn't really get a lot of time on the court. This year, man, Kyrie and Luka, dynamic duo. But Kyrie has really he looks like the Cavaliers Kyrie again. If I'm going to compare it to a position or a spot in his career, he's looking really good. I think he's aged out of all that tomfoolery and that people laid on him and the comments and just negativity around him. I think he's matured. I think also the setting of Dallas, the organization has helped a lot with that. But his performance since he's come to that Dallas, especially this year and these first 4 games of the playoffs, have been incredible. I mean, I think he had 45 points. No, he played 45 minutes. He had 40 points last night, and he really carried the team. He really carried the team. Now, Luka had 29, a very inefficient 29. And I think what the Clippers' idea with Luka, if I transition, I'll get back to Kyrie, is it's kind of the Kobe Bryant treatment is, okay, he may score, 20, 25, 30. Let's make him take 30 shots. Because if he's taking those shots and being inefficient, other guys aren't taking those shots and getting in rhythm. And, you had Kyrie and Luka last night. You didn't have a lot of other help. I mean, PJ Washington, for all his defense, which you need on the floor, he played 40 plus minutes last night, scored 10 points. You need a guy playing 40 minutes to give you 15, 20 on that night. Just when you start balancing out scores, and especially in a game you're not holding them below 100 points this time, which the Mavericks defense has been great. Even Kyrie Irving has been solid. getting hands on balls. Luka has been really good. And I tell you, if those two buy into the defense, you know, me and my dad on the other show, we picked our brackets, and I didn't end up posting that video, but I have Dallas going to the Western Conference Finals against Denver. If these two play defense like they're showing, maybe not this year, but next year with maybe another piece, could be a championship run. To be honest, I feel like they're right on the precipice there. So Kyrie has been brilliant. He's been everything the Dallas Mavericks organization has wanted, expected, and I think he's even exceeded those expectations. On the other side of things with the Clippers, I think an interesting question to ask is, are they better without Kawhi right now? Kawhi played, I think, about 7-10 minutes the last game he played. He didn't play last night. And I just don't think he's ready to be back from his injury. I think that's obvious. Captain Obvious over here. I actually think Paul George and James Harden are looser without him on the floor. I think when he's in the game, Kyrie's the alpha on the team, and they defer to him. It's not a conscious thing. It's probably more of a subconscious thing, and it's kind of those little nuances of the game that if you've been around the game your entire life, you kind of notice. When he's gone, they're free. They have to take those shots. They got to force certain situations uh, and take advantage of the matchup. How many of those one-on-one James Hardens would have been Kawhi Leonard's one-on-one matchups the other night? And so I think Kawhi being out right now, this team flows better. And I actually think it's the worst thing for the Mavericks right now that he's out. Because I think if he was healthy enough to play 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes, I think it'd actually mess up the chemistry because he's not fully right, but he's well enough to play, but he's not really Kawhi right now. So I think it actually hurts the Mavericks that he's probably predicted to be out in the next few games. And Paul George, man, I mean, just coming out on fire. When I played, I was a shooter. I love seeing guys shoot the ball. That three he hit in the corner from pretty much behind the backboard, uh, being fully contested by PJ Washington. Or no, it was Jones. It was Jones Jr. contesting. I mean, there's nothing you can do as a defender. You know, I'm a believer defense wins championships, but great offense beats great defense at times. And that was just a great offensive play. Sometimes people are going to make shots, and great players make hard shots. Paul George is a great player. James Harden, I think he was a great player. I think he's a solid player now. Kyrie, Luka are great players in the league right now. Kawhi Leonard, I think, was a great player. I just think injuries have robbed him of his position. And I think it sets up an interesting dynamic moving forward of these teams are very evenly matched in the fact of you have two stars now on each side. And you kind of have a star that burnt out in Russell Westbrook, who I think he's just mad at life right now with his position because he's not Westbrook, who's averaging triple double. Mavericks just wave him off like Caitlin Clark did back in the day. So I think it's an interesting perspective of how these teams do set up moving forward, though. In the rest of the series with no Kawhi, I think Jason Kidd for the Dallas Mavericks has to start making better coaching adjustments. You are a better team with Gafford and Lively in the game, or either or, I should say, not both at the same time. You need your big fellas in the game. I understand what people might think or say, but strategically, you need the rim protector. You need the pick and roll option on offense as well. because when they're not in there and there's no picks being set by the big fellas, you know, beautiful offense is gone in the NBA. It's pick and roll or isolation, or there's no beautiful ball movement of the Spurs of the 2000s or the Mavericks of the 2000s or the Sacramento Kings is who I was trying to think about. You know, Chris Webber, Jason Williams, Peja, Vladi, all those guys. Um, you don't have that ball movement necessarily in the league anymore like that. So you need your guys to be able to set screens, and you need your big guys in the game to take advantage of that. And if they step up, lob it. So basically, the Clippers were doing in their pick and rolls what a lot of what Dallas was originally doing to LA. And they would get by, and Dallas would step up. You wouldn't rotate down from the wing to take away the dunker spot, and they'd lob it up and yam it in your face. And so uh, I think Jason Kidd's got to make some strategical adjustments with his lineup, especially in the fourth quarter if it's a close game. And the team and him have to figure out how not to come out flat. If they play another day game, because we haven't seen it in a night game, they play another day game, which I think Game 7 is slotted for 2:30 Central Time on Sunday afternoon. You can't come out flat in a Game 7 and try to dig yourself out of a 30-point hole. That's for dang sure. One off-topic thing here, too, by the way. JJ Redick, analyst. I follow him on Twitter. Like I like JJ for the most part. There's times he says stuff I disagree, and if he hears this, he's like, "Who the hell is this guy?" And right now, that's a fair point. Who the heck am I right now? But when Luka went up and contested Zubac, and he was sitting there going, "Oh, I think it might be a flagrant. It might be." Dude, quit being so soft. Listening to that announcing part of the broadcast just irked the crap out of me. How the hell do you become so soft as a player who came up in the league at a different time period? We came up at the same time. We're damn near about the same age, JJ. We watched the same basketball growing up. We played the same basketball. Now you were better than me. That for sure better than 99% of the population. Duke great, did big things in the league, one of the greatest shooters, in my opinion, of all time. But man, how are you going to sit there and it really sounded like he was trying to make a take that wasn't there. Like, oh, I think there was some extra. Man, even the referee on the broadcast was like, nah, there's nothing there. Your broadcast mates were all like, nah, there's nothing there. And you're sitting there going, nah, let's watch it again. And I don't know. I think Luka, may have followed through. Man, quit trying to make a story where there's no story. I know you're getting paid to be there and make your point, and if you don't get something in, they're going to yank you off the broadcast in long term. But don't try to sell something that ain't there. Like that's my biggest gripe when players and certain analysts try to come at a story when there's nothing there. Like, don't be trying to make up stuff because you want a headline. And I'm not saying he tried to do that intentionally, but it just sounded weak. It sounded like you were reaching for sure. It irked the hell out of me. I'm going to be honest. I respect you, man. You one of the best to play the game. Not on that level, but just the game in basketball in general. I respect your mind, your basketball mind. But I that call, man, that was terrible, in my opinion. But wrap it up. Dallas Mavericks, Clippers. I still give Dallas the advantage, but Kawhi being out scares me 100%. Jason needs to make some adjustments to, that's the coach's job. Make the right move. My favorite move of all time, I saw a coach, I'm a little biased, was Rick Carlisle putting JJ Barea in the starting lineup in the 2011 finals. Changed the whole series, ultimately helped them win a championship. All right, this is going to wrap it up. for episode 1 of the Remixes Dallas Mavericks podcast from On Time Sports Talk. Shout out to Mission 22. Shout out to Tel Valhalla Project and Camp Hope here locally in the Houston area. And love y'all. Peace. I'm out.